Welcome to Spectrum Perspectives, real talk with parents, professionals, and autism advocates, with your host, Cindy Gellermini.
Hi, everyone. This is Cindy with another episode of Spectrum Perspectives. And today I have Eliza Silver on with us. Hi, Eliza. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Eliza and I met in October when I had my mom's retreat. She was one of the autism moms that came to the retreat, and you came the night before, and she ended up helping us out, helping us set up and everything. And we all fell in love with her immediately, and we recruited her as part of the team. We were like, we're not letting you go. You're going to be part of the team from now on. So, we were talking on Facebook, and you were mentioning some work that you do, and we'll get to that later. But we're going to do this interview the same way I do with every mom. So you are an autism mom, as I mentioned. How many kids do you have?
4.
And what are their ages?
I have Daniel, who's 11.
Mm-hmm.
I have Rebecca, who's 10. I have Philip, who just turned 7. And I have Marilyn, who's 4.
Okay, so did I just hear boy, girl, boy, girl?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So Daniel's the oldest. So he's 11. So he's your one with autism, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So let's go back to the beginning when you were first pregnant with him, and you went for I'm assuming you went for your doctor visits. Were there any kind of red flags? Did the doctor say, hey, there could possibly be an issue with this pregnancy or anything like that?
Nothing.
Okay. And then how about the birth? Were there any issues, any trouble giving birth?
Not really. It's just it was my first birth, so it's always kind of a different experience. But
right,
other than
because
that,
you don't know what to expect. You're terrified and you have no idea what to expect. But they didn't. I know with Robbie they had to run in and give me oxygen and things like that. But
yeah, I had oxygen at the ends, but like after, I didn't really react well to the epidural.
Mm-hmm.
With him, but I did natural births for my other 3 because of that. I
Okay.
So I did like hypnobirthing. I was very into that for the other ones, but yeah, that could be a whole other episode.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then so they didn't pick up anything when he was born, and then how was his development? Did he crawl on time, walk on time, all of that?
No, he didn't do anything on time. We took him back in New York 11 years ago. You go every month until I think 3 months, or every month till 6 months, and then not till 9 months and not till 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
So the doctor we were using was kind of one foot out the door. He was retiring that year and didn't pick up on anything.
Oh, really? The doctor didn't even pick up. He wasn't asking you questions about his milestones?
Not till he was a year. They were like, oh, you should probably do this test, and that kind of started our journey with all that. But at the time we were actually moving cross country to California. I was already pregnant with my second child, and it was a lot going on.
Right.
But we didn't know anything until he was missing milestones at the year mark.
Did you, they didn't give you the book, of, well, no, that's what to expect when expecting, but they didn't, there were no books or anything that you're supposed to read to make sure you're.
Well, I sort of was begging him for like the sleep thing, and I was, they wouldn't give me anything until a certain age. They were very strict with when to help me with things. So I kind of did my own research, which might not have been the best idea. I read some not very good books. Well, actually one, but I always recommend to people, if you're going to read a book and not go with your mommy intuition, you should read 2 opposing viewpoints, because then you can take both, the best of both, and go from there. Because if you read one and you're a perfectionist like I used to be, you're going to follow it to a T and blame yourself, or you have the opposite, you're going to do that also. So it's, if you're going to read 2 opposing views.
That's good advice. So did he begin speaking at any point?
He's still, I know the word nonverbal means different things to different people, but it's for us the truest sense of the word. He doesn't speak with his voice. He does a little sign language, and he understands a lot. His receptive language is pretty good. His expressive is basically 0. He able to make sounds. His vocal cords work and everything, but all the speech in the world, all the prompt certified and this certified and that certified, driving an hour each way, out of pocket, no insurance, all the speech in the world hasn't helped him yet.
Okay, so it's not like he had a couple of words and he lost it, because that's what happened with Robbie. He had a couple of words and then he just stopped speaking. So he just never said any words. You've never heard him say anything.
No, I mean, he's like, he hasn't really said it's ba for everything.
Right.
So he's able to say baba for
Right.
everything.
Right.
He used to say dad, but I'm not sure if it was purposeful. I think he was just playing with his mouth. He stopped being able to say that though.
Right.
But with the different programs and different things that we are doing with him over the past few years, he has started making other sounds. Like now he's able to say yeah. That's pretty new. And he usually says that purposefully. So
okay. So then how did we end up with the diagnosis of autism?
Well, we moved a bunch. We moved about 10 times.
Wow.
Yeah. So between East Coast and West Coast, my husband's from the West Coast and I'm from the East Coast. So we've bounced around a lot. In California, actually did not need the diagnosis of autism to get him services there. They're pretty liberal with services over there. In New Jersey, it's a whole different story. There was not any iota of any help at all if there was not an autism diagnosis. And I'm not usually one for, just get him a diagnosis to get this, because I get very upset with people who do that for kids who don't need it. I've been on waiting lists for speech for over a year, and my child is nonverbal and their child has a lisp or something, or, and I would be like, you're taking a spot from someone who really needs it. But the point is, the autism diagnosis was really needed here. And he does check off a lot of the boxes. One of the reasons he didn't have autism diagnosis before was because he's very social. He looks at you in the eye, he'll smile. He really loves people, usually, if he's in the mood for them, or certain times he's not in the mood. But generally, he's a very friendly kid and very social, and not always socially appropriate. Like he'll high-five somebody on the street, or he'll go over to anybody, which is not safe. Yeah, so that's where the autism diagnosis came from when we moved here to New Jersey.
But were you looking for that? I mean, what did you think was going on? Did you just think he was just delayed with all his development? And
yeah, for a while, it was just global developmental delay. Nobody could explain it. We went for a million different blood tests and a bunch of different doctors, neurologists, geneticists, all different types of things. We did all the basic testing. Nothing came back anything, and it was just GDD, global developmental delay. But I think now there's so much more genetic testing that's being done. So I think a lot of people are going to have genetic diagnoses. To me, though, it doesn't really make a difference, because it doesn't change the way that we, treat him with therapies. It doesn't change the way we love him. It doesn't change any of that stuff. So, the autism diagnosis, the genetic diagnosis, any other diagnosis, to me, it really doesn't mean much. We still do the best that we can and everything we can for him and love him the same. And yeah.
Right. But like you said, in California, it doesn't really matter what the diagnosis is. He gets the help he needs, but here you need it, especially when it comes to insurance, right? I mean, that's a subject that's come up quite a bit, is when you get the diagnosis, the first thing the doctors recommend is ABA therapy. And, you have to have that diagnosis for insurance to cover ABA therapy. As controversial as ABA is, whatever, I feel like it was a big deal to finally get insurance to cover it, right? But you have to have a diagnosis. You can't just be.
Well, even with the diagnosis, insurance does not always cover. We don't even have that covered right now because.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No, because the person from the ABA agency said, the insurance will only cover if you have this test done. So we went ahead and got that test done, paid hundreds of dollars out of pocket. Then insurance still denied it. And then they said, they only covered if you take this other test, and it's thousands of dollars. My son is not able to speak. He's not able to go to the bathroom. He's not able to dress himself. He's not able to do any of the activities of daily living. I can't do anything. Can't brush his teeth. For a test to say that he needs help. Anybody who meets him would say, clearly this child needs help. So
insurance doesn't cover these tests?
Of dollars for a test to say that he needs help. Anybody who meets him would say, clearly this child needs help. So
insurance doesn't cover these tests?
Insurance that we have doesn't cover the tests. They don't offer really much of anything. The only thing they would offer is if he was medically fragile, meaning he would eat from a G tube or something like that, then the state would pay. So even though he's not able to prepare himself a meal, he's not able to take a bath by himself, he can't sense if the water is hot or cold, the temperature, his proprioception is off, his all his senses are not fully active. So, you know, if he got dropped off down the block from our house, he would not know how to get home. So he's, you know, someone has to be watching him all the time. And in New Jersey, we're not getting the help that we need, unfortunately.
What kind of tests are they?
Neuropsych evals and different neuropsych evaluations from psychologists that charge thousands of dollars out of pocket. No one, I don't know if they accept insurance. There are people who do accept insurance, but there's like a 2-year wait list for those people.
I was going to say there's also a ridiculous wait list for these on top of how much it costs.
I'm on the phone all day, every day, trying to, you know, navigate all this stuff. And I'm pretty on the ball with things. So if I'm having a hard time, I can't imagine, you know, people that aren't as on the ball as I am, you know, just navigating through this. It's tough.
Wow. So did you put him in any kind of preschool or anything? Like, what did he do as far as school goes?
Yeah, so in California, we went to a floor time school, which I don't know if you're familiar. Floor time is like the opposite of ABA. It's a type of approach that's very relationship based and not very by rote based. It's sort of, you know, building from the ground up, which is better for Daniel only because he's like very sensitive and he needs that relationship piece is like very, very important for him. Mm-hmm. So ABA is more data, like very data driven and not necessarily relationship based. Floor time is very relationship based, not necessarily data driven. So for me, I'm not opposed to either one of those, but if I do ABA, I look for an ABA company that is sort of more holistic. And if I go with floor time, I look for a company that's also willing to like track things. I think it's just important to, you know, each company is so different. You know, it's not just ABA, all the companies are one way, or floor time, all the companies are one way. It's kind of, I try to get like a mix.
Yeah. Is there such a thing? That sounds like that's better.
He's in a floor time school right now that we found here in New Jersey, which is fantastic. It's a wonderful school.
Is it a school for autistic kids or special needs kids, or it's not a public school?
No, it's not a public school. What happened was when we moved from California to New Jersey, I was looking for non-public schools because he'd always been a non-public and didn't find one that was a good fit for him. They were either too severe or too not severe. So I decided to look at the public school with an open mind. Very bad idea. They yelled at the wazoo. We went there for a month or two before COVID hit, and then they never went back to school. So we hired a lawyer and got him into this other school, which is also very unfortunate the way that it works, but that's the way that it works.
Yeah, so you had to hire a lawyer to get him into the school. Okay. Why? Because they didn't want to pay for him to go to the other school? Is that why?
Yeah, the school district was giving a very hard time like they do. I threatened a lawyer. They didn't believe me. And then once they saw his name, that it was smooth sailing from there. I mean, for the school. And yeah, they're trying, you know, with the toilet training, and they're trying with the different things. And we've done many different things for Daniel in terms of different types of therapies and treatments. And we even went to Panama a month ago for stem cell treatments.
Wow.
So we'll see. Yeah. Wait,
tell me about that. What is that?
It's a treatment for autism that is not yet allowed in the US, which to me, you know, it just means they didn't do the research yet. Like there's tons of things that are not research based here, but because they didn't do the actual research. But in other countries, they are research based because they actually did the research. So yeah, I mean, I found out about this treatment, and my mother and I took my son. And
how is it done?
IV.
Oh, through IV. Okay. Yeah. And he was okay with that? He allowed an IV to go in?
Yeah, we prepared him really well, and we didn't know how it was going to be. Actually, we thought like we were just going to go there, and this was going to be just the whole reason. But he was so good, and he went every morning just for a few minutes, and then we had the rest of the day in Panama. So
how many days?
We'll see what happens.
How many days?
It was a week.
A week? Oh, okay. And how do you do on the airplane?
So I started to give him melatonin on the airplanes. which I never used. I don't know why I didn't do that before. He doesn't fall asleep from it because it doesn't affect, he doesn't really fall asleep from it. He doesn't sleep well at night. We've tried many different things, and the melatonin just relaxes him a little bit on the plane. So he was fine on the plane. He actually loves airplanes. I mean, he's busy all the time. It's constant, you know, keeping him occupied, but usually his ears really bother him, but I give him, you know, something for his ears. I give him some Advil or Motrin and some melatonin, and make sure to have lots of jelly beans on hand.
Yeah, things to chew, right? Yeah, because there's Robbie wouldn't chew gum. He would he'd swallow it. But
You know, can chew gum and can't have hard candy, obviously. He can't lateralize his tongue, so he's not able to really chew that well.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's right. These are very good tips for parents, actually. Even for parents of toddlers, even if they're not autistic, just parents that can't fly. Yeah, little melatonin, jelly beans.
Melatonin, jelly beans. Yeah, lollipops don't work for him either because he bites them.
Right.
So, but yes, definitely jelly beans are a good one.
Okay. Yeah, good to know. Good to know. That's great. So what about like his physical health? Does he have like GI issues?
He does have GI issues. He very rarely goes to the bathroom. Number two, he'll go like once a week, and it will definitely not be normal. But I have gone to like some doctors for it, but they want me to give him like stool softeners and all this stuff. And not that I'm against it, but he's not toilet trained. So if I give him a stool softener,
you're going to clean that up.
to be totally, so I try to hydrate him well and other things, and I'm looking into some other kind of, you know, natural things, different things, you know, that he can eat. So more, I'm definitely more of like a naturalist, even though I'm married to a hospitalist. You know, he's the medical side and I'm the other side.
Right. I was going to say, I would always look into the natural, you know, side first before it's, you know, start doing the drugs. But yeah, I was always afraid to medicate Robbie. It wasn't until he had seizures that I had to medicate him for that. And when I saw how much it calmed him down and how much better he was afterwards, then I was like kicking myself. I'm like, oh man, I should have tried this years ago. But, you know, you do what you got to do.
Exactly.
So how about his eating? Is he a picky eater?
You know, he's not a picky eater, actually. Okay. Usually he's not a picky eater. Some things he'll point to his teeth and he'll go, no, like he'll tell me it's not good for his teeth, but he doesn't want to eat it.
Okay. Okay, but jelly beans are okay though.
Jelly beans are okay. Exactly. That's one thing he doesn't really have an issue with, picky eating. I mean, certain things he likes more than other things. He loves mashed potatoes. Those are his favorite food.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So he's not, it's not textures that bother him. He doesn't mind that. Okay. Okay. So he doesn't have that sensory thing going on there with that, but he's not a good sleeper, you said. So what's his typical nighttime like? Like, when does he go to bed? How many times does he wake up?
I've tried putting him early. I've tried putting him late. I've tried all the things, the melatonin, the valerian root, all the stuff. He falls asleep fine. He just doesn't stay asleep.
It's just right. It's not the staying.
He never really gets into REM, which is not good for his brain either, or mine. But.
Right. Yeah. And that's an issue, because if the kids aren't sleeping, then that means the parents aren't sleeping either. And then you're exhausted and tired and cranky and
And my husband is working nights, so it's not like he can get up sometimes and I can get up sometimes. A lot of it's just me. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever tried clonidine?
We went to a sleep specialist when we first moved here, and he refused to prescribe it.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, because that's what we gave Robbie. And when moms ask on these autism pages, you know, what to do, and other moms I've seen a lot of people recommend clonidine, but I mentioned it once and this mom jumped all over me. How dare you recommend such a strong medication? Da, da, da. And I was like, whoa, I'm only telling you that's what the doctor told me to give my son, and it worked. That's all I said. So it's like, I'm afraid to answer questions sometimes.
You can say anything you want to me. I'm very non-judgmental. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know, I was very judgy before I was a mom, and now I'm not judgy at all.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it changes you, right? Especially after you have an autistic kid, you just completely different outlook on life and toward everyone and everything else, right? Yeah, very non-judgy anymore. It's like, well, now I'm like, well, he can't help it. Maybe he's a little on the
Exactly.
spectrum or something. I don't know. He had a bad day. I don't know. So, all right. So tell me about what we were talking about on Facebook when you were in California. You were helping other families navigate something. Explain that all to me.
Actually, it was after I moved out of California. I'm doing it
Okay.
now. It's a
Okay.
new thing. It rolled out this past July, right after we left, a year or two after we left.
Mhm.
It's called self-determination. It's a program where families, instead of being offered services, right? Like there were a lot of services that we didn't utilize there because it wasn't helpful for him. So we just didn't utilize it. So instead of the service, they give you an actual budget for the year, and then you choose, or the person is supposed to be involved and to choose how to utilize that. So for example, like a regional center wouldn't necessarily cover things like camp or horseback riding or different things like that. Whereas with self-determination, you can utilize it how you see fit. You can use it on camp. You can use it on horseback riding, art classes, music, different things. So it's an incredible program.
Could you use it for these tests that the money that the doctors are charging that your insurance isn't covering?
That's a great question. I haven't had any clients yet to ask about that. It just rolled out in July. There is a category within it called an unmet need. So a lot of the things, that you might want to have paid for that don't fall into a different box may be able to fall into the unmet need category, which is what I do for a lot of my clients. I actually got certified to help families access that, and I'm doing it virtually from here.
Mhm.
And my husband's from California, and I have a lot of family and friends in California, so I'm back and forth sometimes. If somebody wanted to meet in person, that would be fine too. And another amazing thing, and one of the reasons why I love doing this so much, is that I don't charge the families a penny. Regional center pays my fee, and I can help special needs families and not charge them anything, which
Wait,
for me,
and who is this that pays you?
regional center. So that's
Yeah,
the thing
who are
about
they? Yeah.
regional center in California is the sort of hub of services. So in New Jersey, you're calling an insurance company, and you're calling the therapy offices, and you're calling all the different moving parts, and everyone tells you different things and you can't get a straight answer. In California, you call regional center. You have a caseworker there, and they help you with everything. It's much more streamlined, and not a lot of the regional center workers know a lot about the self-determination program yet because it's so new. So as an independent facilitator, which is my quote unquote title, I'm a certified independent facilitator for the self-determination program. I help navigate and sort of like the liaison between regional center and the families, and I help them get what they need.
So regional center, that's a government agency, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's not private.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, I guess that's not that important. But so if I had an autistic child and I lived in California, I would go to the regional center to help me navigate everything that I need to know as far as what the insurance and therapies and schools and all that kind of stuff, or
Well, the regional center is like the payer of last resort. So if the insurance company doesn't cover something, then the regional center might. There are certain things that they don't cover, which is why the self-determination program is so great, because if regional center doesn't cover it, you can access those services that you want through the self-determination program. It's in conjunction with regional center.
okay.
So they're not sort of left out of it, but it's a program within that. It's a government. They've been trying to get it there for, I think, over a decade, and they finally just rolled out this past July. So it's an
Okay. All right. And this is money from the government that is going to this, that they'll give out to families that need it. So
Yes.
there's a certain budget so does everybody get the same amount? Does it?
No.
Okay.
Everyone
Is it determined on what, your income or the disability or?
That's also what's so beautiful about the California is that, well, first of all, Medicaid, which is called Medi-Cal over there, is not income based. It's need based. So in New Jersey, for example, Daniel can't get Medicaid because on paper we earn too much. So even though he will have needs for the rest of his life, he doesn't qualify, which is very sad. So in California, it's different. It's need-based. Sorry, what was your question? What was
How much money does family get? Does everybody get the same amount, or how do they determine how much you get?
It's based on the individual's needs. It's not based on income. It's not based on anything except for what you ask for. So as an independent facilitator, I'll help families kind of draw out, okay, what does a typical day look like for your child? What does a typical weekend look like? What does a typical weekday look like? What is the family situation, the friends, the social, emotional? And I kind of help them gather what services they might be able to utilize. So for example, I had a family I recently helped and they got over $50,000 budget for the year.
Wow.
I've had clients with higher ones and lower ones. It just depends what they need. And as long as everything is approved, which if you have a good independent facilitator, they'll be able to put it into one of those box categories. Then
I'm wondering if you even recommend things that they might not even know is available. Like maybe there's an equine therapy that they didn't even know there was such a thing. And you'd say, well, what about this? Have you ever tried this? You know,
some people might not do that, but I do that because I have a son with special needs myself, and I would want someone to do that for me. So I certainly say, well, have you ever considered this? Or do you know anyone who ever did this? Or yes. And there's also certain ways to present it. You know, they don't really cover therapy per se. So as long as it's a social event or some kind of community event, there's different ways to kind of put it so that it will get approved. Like,
so that's what they're more concerned with, is the social stuff rather than therapy.
Kind of like if you try to go do it on your own and you tell them what you want, they might just like deny it off the bat, as opposed to if you have somebody like me who's trained, who knows, they'll word it maybe a little differently.
And then what about age? Is this only for children, or is this for, what about over 21? Are they still, can they still get benefits?
I believe so. I have not had an older client, but I have other independent facilitator friends who have worked with older clients, and they'll even pay for them to like live on their own or different things. It's whatever, it's a self-determination. So the person determines their life. It's about a higher quality of life and being able to contribute to society in a more meaningful way.
Because I'm thinking about like over 21, there's young adults with autism that were in day programs. And then during COVID, they were shut down for a year, 2 years, right? And parents had to hire some type of an aide or someone to come and help them watch their child and just do things with them during the day, take them somewhere, do something with them, you know, and that maybe gets paid through Medicaid, or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. So I'm wondering if a program like that would help with something like that.
I helped a family recently get 40 extra COVID hours a month. They give extra hours because of COVID. Sometimes actually they'll even roll it over into more permanent hours. So it just kind of depends on the situation. But yes, that's certainly something that it would help.
They would pay someone's salary to come and work with your child.
How
about that? So let's talk about New Jersey a bit more, because you have a son that's younger than mine. So like, I'm curious to know the differences. Like I did interview one mom where she moved here from New York, and she was talking about the difference between services that you get in New York and New Jersey. Everything's paid for, everything's covered, even, you know, even doctor bills and things, like just everything's covered there. And here she has such problems and issues. So I'm kind of hearing the same thing from you. Like, what are you not getting here that you need?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, every kind of in California, it's always been kind of, the people who are involved in the special needs, even the top special needs lawyer that I spoke with one time there, everyone says that California is so behind and this and that. And everyone says the East Coast is so much better. That was one of the reasons we moved to the East Coast, but they weren't specific enough. New York is the probably better place in terms of that. So I can understand what your friend is saying in terms of New York and New Jersey. We would even consider moving again because of it. We really are not really getting much. everything was covered there. Pull-ups, wipes. Now that all that stuff we're paying for out of pocket, which is a fortune when you have older child who's incontinent and you're having to pay for all the
So wait a
supplies.
minute, who was paying for your pull-ups and your wipes and stuff?
And actually, the insurance was paying for it there, and it was covered under durable medical equipment.
Right.
Here, insurance doesn't cover that.
Well, I know when Robbie was in the group home, they told me that they covered, and because I think he was on Medicaid then when he went into the group home at that point, and I think Medicaid covered the pull-ups.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think it might be different in that situation.
yeah, I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember.
But yeah, I mean, there's also something called in-home supportive services over there. I was basically getting paid a salary to be home and take care of him because I couldn't work.
Okay, boom, boom. You just hit on something right there. Okay, I just posted this on my Robbie and Me page on Facebook. Jess Ronnie from Jess Plus the Mess, she posted it and I reposted it, that in Arizona, they will pay parents to watch their own child instead of paying for a caregiver, right? And if you really think about this, you know, let's say I have to go to work at Target or whatever to earn money to pay someone else to watch my child, where I could be doing a better job of watching my own child, but you can't afford to just stay home and not work, right? So what do? So the state will pay the parents to watch their own child in 3 states. I guess it was Arizona. Was it California? I don't know. I don't remember what the 3 states were.
So definitely California.
Yeah. So definitely. Yeah. So, yeah, that I think we need that in New Jersey. That's a big one. That's a big
Yeah.
one.
I mean, the in-home supportive service, you could use the money to hire somebody, or you can choose it to be yourself. So I chose to be the one, but you're able to use the funds for someone else if you don't want to.
Right. I mean, that's for me, I would have been the one to stay home, but there's other women that have careers that, you know, they want to work and they would prefer to pay someone, but at least it's a help, you know.
It's meant for if you're not working. It's meant for if you can't work. That's the point. It's right. It's meant for if you're not able to work because you have to take care of your special child.
Right. Well, it's hard because that's why I was always self-employed, because I had to be home by 3 o'clock when the bus got here. I tried hiring babysitters and they would always quit.
Yeah, and that's you know how many I've been through just this year. I can't even tell you. But also there were times where I had to pull Daniel out of school. He was at a school for kids with autism at one point, and he was getting hurt. The assistant teacher quit, and his teacher quit within the first month of school. And then I picked him up early one day because my mother was in town visiting, and they tell me, oh, by the way, he got hurt in the head today. And I said, oh, well, I didn't get a phone call. You know, what happened? And they tell me, oh, his head got in the way of someone's foot. I was like, you didn't have to say that.
That's an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah. So he got kicked in the head. No one called and told me. So, and then, you know, after he didn't have a teacher, it was just, I had to basically homeschool him for a few months after that because I couldn't send him back there. It wasn't safe.
Right.
So yeah, but there's, I mean, between ABA and respite and IHSS and now self-determination and
wait, what's IHSS? What's that?
The in-home supportive service that we were just talking about.
Okay.
Between all and those are just the ones that are not income-based. Then there's also SSI and all those things. If you're not earning enough money, we didn't even have to utilize that. We were still getting, there were more services than there were hours in a day for him there. I still like the East Coast better just because I'm from the East Coast and my family is here. But in terms of services, you know, if anybody on your show has any questions, I'm happy to help them out and answer.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted you to come on, because you said, oh, you mentioned to me if I know anybody that needs your help. And I thought, well, it's much easier if you just come on and explain what you do, and then I'll just put it up on YouTube and just tell people from California to watch. And then if they need your help, they can contact you. So they're 3 hours behind. So how do you work your hours?
Well, because there are different meetings that involve the regional center and the family and myself. So we all kind of coordinate. And if it's a 6 p.m. meeting there, it's a 9 p.m. meeting for me.
Mhm.
And it works out great for me because my kids are sleeping. So,
Right.
and they're in school during the day. So,
Right. You just
I
do it
just
like this? You just do Zoom calls?
I make it work. We do Zoom. Nowadays, everything's on Zoom anyway. And like I said, I
Exactly.
am there. If somebody was really, really wanting to meet in person, I am there sometimes. So
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
but this
works.
is fine. You could do a Zoom call easily.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
And I'm always with
okay.
phone and text and all that stuff. So
All right. So if someone in California wants the help, who do they contact? Do they contact you directly or they contact who?
yes, they
How does
contact
it
me
work?
directly. Okay, they contact me directly. My
Okay.
name is Eliza Silver, spelled
Mhm.
like Eliza.
Oh, I'm
Eliza.
sorry. I didn't realize it was I said Eliza and I knew better.
I
It's because I
haven't
was
seen.
reading it. Okay.
Yeah, so Eliza is my first name, Eliza,
Mhm.
and the last name is Silver, like the
Mhm.
color, Silver. And I'll just give my cell phone numbers. That's the best way to reach me. You can
Oh, okay.
text or
You don't want an email?
email. I can give my email too. Email
Mhm.
is great also.
Yeah.
So it's just my first name, last name.
Mhm.
So Eliza Silver, the number 18
Mhm.
at yahoo.com.
Uh-huh. I think that's best rather than giving out your cell phone. I'd
Yeah.
rather have them email you.
Email me, and then once we can connect on email, I will give you my personal cell, and you can reach me anytime that you need anything or have a question.
Terrific. That's wonderful. Anything else that you want to mention about that things that we need in New Jersey, since that's my focus lately, trying to get help here of what do people need?
Oh, yes,
Give
to
me the
have
list. Go
med
ahead. Keep giving me the
oh,
list.
I mean, start all over again. To have well, number 1, to have Medicaid not be income-based. It
Mhm.
should definitely be need-based. If a child especially needs, long-term help, they should be able to get long-term help without we're working hard and working I don't wanna I don't know what kind of language I can use. We're working really, really hard
Mhm.
to be able to, afford the things that we pay for out of pocket for him, the other 3 kids, all the things. And his needs shouldn't have to be on there as such a heavy load. So definitely Medicaid should be need based and not
Right.
income based. Well, I mean, the insurance companies are the insurance companies, so they should definitely hop on board with the things that people need. But yeah, some respite. Respite is a big thing. We got a lot of respite in California. That was a state-based program that we're getting now, but it's so minute.
What's
Yeah.
like, explain to people that don't understand what respite is. Explain to them what it is, and what type did you get in California?
Respite is a service so that the parent gets a respite, a literal break. It's meant for, I would use it to either take a shower or I wouldn't really go out because I have 3 other kids, or I would spend special time with one of my other children, play a board game with one of my other kids, not have to be always solely focused on Daniel
Mhm.
all the time. So it was really nice to be able to have that time. And they were very generous with the hours there because there's a big need, Here it's very skimpy. So definitely
So
more
did
rest.
you, when you had the respite, did you always have the same person come or it was different people?
Um, I had the same person, but it could be different people also. There was one person we had on the weekends, another person. It was the same company. There's like respite companies, and they have many different people in the company.
Mhm.
So they have that here too, but it just seems to be very sparse.
And did they understand autism? Like that's why I never used respite, because I didn't trust a stranger to come and watch my son while I went out. I'm like, do you know anything about autism? I don't even know if I can trust you alone with that. That's what kept me
It's
from it.
it's very hit or miss. I usually don't leave the house. I'm usually around just because also that I want to make sure that,
Mhm.
it's good. Sometimes you get great people. We had one person who had a sibling who had special needs. So you can give me all the qualifications and degrees that you have, and you're not going to be as good as this person who grew up with it. It's
Mhm.
just a fact.
Right.
So she was fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, but then there are people who just come and sit there. I didn't even say hi to him, so they never came back again. And then there's people who come into your house and judge you, which is not always a good feeling,
Mhm.
but happens. But at some point, it's sort of like, well, you need someone there to at least watch him while he's on his iPad or something, so you can go do.
Right.
Daniel will watch the iPad, but not for a long time. So
Right.
he'll be there for a few minutes and then he'll get distracted with something else. But just
Yeah.
to make sure that he's safe and everyone else is safe around
Right.
him. So
Yeah. Yeah. Please just make sure my son doesn't elope while I'm not looking.
Exactly. Please make sure he doesn't go into the drawer and touch a knife by accident, or exactly.
Exactly. I know here in New Jersey, you register your kid with DDD when they're young, and then you don't really use them for anything. And then they would call, and I don't remember if it was somebody from DDD or some other agency affiliated with them or whatever. They would call and check in once a year. And they would ask me, how's he doing? Do you need respite? Whatever. And I just would always say no, until everything just fell apart at 17 when he started having the seizures and stuff. That's when I finally said, yeah, you know what? I do need help. But that's all I know of. They would call once a year to check in. So I don't know what's available out there now. I don't know who's doing respite. Apparently not a whole lot of it. I think there's probably too many people that need it now.
Maybe. I don't know. It's, I feel like it's like I'm in a bad dream and I'm screaming sometimes and no one hears me, because it's like, he could learn with the right help. He could learn to get dressed. He could learn to brush his teeth. He could learn to cut up his food. Maybe he could. He's only 11. Like, he could learn these things. I just, don't have anyone helping me do those things. And,
They don't work on that in school?
The school, like I said, it's a more relationship-based, kind of play-based school. So they're learning, but it's more experiential learning. And even at an ABA school, I don't know if they would necessarily be doing
teaching him basic life skills, because they did that with Robbie. I mean, they came to the house to try to potty train him. They worked on potty training. They worked on feeding if they needed to. They did, teaching him just how to wash his hands and brush his hair and all that kind of stuff, like basic life skill things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he actually stayed back this year because COVID, and there's not a bathroom in the room in the older school. Like, technically he's supposed to be in 6, but there's not really grades in his school, but he stayed back into the smaller building just so there'd be a bathroom in the room and things. So maybe in the older division, they start doing more of those life skills, but now it's just, learning through play. It's a lot of sensory activities. And they weren't doing the community-based things during COVID, but now they started doing that again. So they'll take them on a trip to Walmart one day, and kind of like once a week they do something with them. Right. So
what else is on your list? Anything else?
I think that's it. I'm really honored to be on your podcast, and really wonderful to see you. And I believe everything's for a reason, and the way that we met and everything. So I'm really just honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And I'll see you on our next meeting for our next retreat.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
I'm not going to work you too hard, because now that I know that your son never sleeps, I know that you need rest.
It was so much fun for me to be with you guys. You guys are a fun group. It was.
Okay, Eliza, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story. And by having you tell me what we need, that helps me to help you and other families and know where I need to, push some buttons and be a squeaky wheel. So.
Thank you. Oh, yes, squeaky wheel is our job. And for any autism moms who would like to go on this retreat, you contact Cindy. I mean, for me, it was a life-changing weekend. It really was. I think about it all the time, and I just have a smile on my face.
That's good. I'm so glad.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. You have a good night.
You too.
That's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed listening and it helped you gain a new perspective. If you're interested in buying our book series, Robbie's World and His Spectrum of Adventures, the link will be in our episode description, as well as my Instagram and Facebook pages. If you enjoyed the show and you'd like more content, please be sure to hit that like button, follow us, and don't forget to leave us a great review. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to join us again on our next episode of Spectrum Perspectives.
Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to join us again on our next episode of Spectrum Perspectives.